things about the cloud. Snowflake uses multi-cluster shared data architecture. Snowflake stores the data in Amazon S3 bucket. When you load data into Snowflake, Snowflake splits the files into micro files, and then it stores those files in the Amazon S3 buckets or Azure Blob Storage. And when you query data or when you load data into Snowflake, it uses virtual warehouses to load or retrieve data from Snowflake. In a traditional data warehouse platform, you have one storage layer and you have the common database appliance that is being shared between the ETL team, the development team, and the reporting teams. But in Snowflake, you can have multiple virtual warehouses, and you have the common data layer which is being shared across all the virtual warehouses. And Snowflake claims that there won't be any downtime between the read and write operations between the virtual warehouses. The Snowflake architecture consists of 3 layers: the database storage layer, the query processing layer, and the cloud services layer. When you load data into Snowflake, Snowflake converts the data into microfiles, and it stores the files in Amazon S3 buckets. As of today, Snowflake charges $23 per terabyte of storage, which is exactly the same price that AWS charges. Next is the query processing layer. It uses Amazon EC2 instances behind the scenes. So you can have a separate virtual warehouse for loading data into Snowflake, as well as you can have a separate virtual warehouse for reading data from Snowflake. Each virtual warehouse is independent, isolated, and it could scale up or down based on the demand. The cloud services layer is the brain of Snowflake. When a user fires a query, it spins up the virtual warehouses automatically, and it copies the data from Amazon S3 buckets to the virtual warehouses, and it does all the work, and it returns the results to the end user. The cloud services layer also maintains the metadata of all the tables and all the columns. It is also responsible for handling the transactions, security, and the infrastructure and access control. So if you sign up for Snowflake, your bill will contain 2 sections. You will be billed for the storage used in terabyte, and you will also be billed based on the compute credits used by your virtual warehouses. Snowflake uses virtual warehouses to execute your queries or to load data into Snowflake. The virtual warehouse is a fancy term for on-demand computing. For simplicity's sake, Snowflake offers warehouses in t-shirt sizes. We have warehouse sizes from extra small to 4x large. An extra small warehouse has 1 server, and it will exhaust 1 compute credit per hour, whereas a 4x large warehouse has 128 servers in this cluster, and it will exhaust 128 credits per hour. You can choose the warehouse size based on your needs. If you're not sure about your warehouse size, you can always start small and then you keep increasing based on your requirements. And you can always auto scale up or down based on the load. Snowflake's unique architecture also brings in exciting new features like time travel, zero copy cloning, and data sharing. We are going to go through all these topics in detail later, but here's a high-level overview. If you have a table with a lot of updates happening, you could use time travel to look at the table. You could see how the table looked like a day back, 2 days back, or even a minute back. Whereas you could use zero copy cloning to clone your production database for your testing needs without having to actually copy the data. Data sharing is another feature of Snowflake, where you can get data from your provider without having to load data into Snowflake, or you can share data with another organization who's with Snowflake. Every company needs a data warehouse, so investing your time in learning the technology is well worth it. Data warehouse is easy to get started, and it could provide you a secure and stable career over the long run. And data warehouse is all about learning a handful of best practices and keep doing them over and over again. And it's absolutely normal if you couldn't grasp everything in this course. You can try redoing the course again. And as always, look for next part of this course. I am planning to create deep dive SQL lessons and a couple of sample projects for you to get some hands-on. Visit copycoding.com for more learning resources on cloud data warehousing as well as Snowflake. Let us go ahead and load data into Snowflake using SnowSQL client. I'm opening my command prompt and I'm logging into SnowSQL. I'm typing in SnowSQL -e followed by my account name and press enter. It prompts for my username. And my password. Okay, now we are logged into SnowSQL. So the first step after logging into SnowSQL is to choose the right virtual warehouse and to choose the right database and the right schema. So we want to use the training virtual warehouse and we want to use the sales username database and we want to use the schema sales data. I'm copying this code and I'm pasting it in the SnowSQL client. Okay, all the three statements have been executed. If you notice, I have given all three statements at once followed by a semicolon. So it executes all the three SQL statements. Now we can verify if you are in the right virtual warehouse by just typing in the current warehouse. Current database. Current schema. Okay, so now we have verified we are using training virtual warehouse and we are in the sales database and we are using the sales data schema. So the next step is to create a table. We are going to create a employee basic table with 6 columns. My table will have first name, last name, email, street address, city, and start date. I'll go ahead and copy this table DDL, and I will go back to the command prompt, and I will execute this create table statement. Okay, my table has been created successfully. If in case you are not able to create a table, it means you don't have enough access privileges to create a table. So you'll have to go back to the SnowSQL client and then you have to grant access to your user ID. So for the purpose of this tutorial, we are going to use the Snowflake sample dataset. We are trying to load the sample employee file into the employee basic table. Go ahead and download this zip file. It got downloaded, and once you are in the file, just unzip the file, and inside the file you have five different files. Each one is a comma separated file. Each one has 5 rows. You have the employee first name, last name, email, the street address, and the rest of the stuff. So we are going to go ahead and load all these 5 files into our Snowflake table, which we have already created. Now I have copied the entire getting started folder into my desktop. Let us go ahead and put all these files into the Snowflake staging area. Snowflake has 3 kinds of staging areas: the user stage, the table stage, and the named stage. For this tutorial, we are going to load all these files into the table stage. If you notice here, this is our database, followed by our schema, followed by the table stage. So we're going to use the put command. And if you notice, all the 5 files have been loaded into the staging area successfully. We can verify that by using the list command. So we can, the list command will list all the files available in that staging area. So right now, my staging area has 5 files, and we are going to load all these 5 files into the table from the staging area. So we'll use the copy command to copy all the files in the staging area into the actual table. So this is the syntax of the copy command. Copy into the employee basic table from the staging area. The file format will be CSV files, and we need to load all the 5 files that match this pattern. And in case if it encounters any errors, we want to skip the file and proceed with the next one. I'm copying this command and I'm executing the command. And if you notice, all the 5 files have been loaded successfully. While transmitting the file from the local to the Snowflake staging area, all the files are by default encrypted, and they're compressed. They're in compressed format. So now we have loaded all the 5 files into our table. Let us go ahead and verify the count of records in our target table. Okay, now we have all the 25 records in our target table. Now let us go ahead and query how the data looks like. Okay, this is how my data looks like in the employee table. Let us go ahead and do a couple of other operations. We can also insert into the employee basic table manually. In this example, we are going to insert 2 rows manually into the employee basic table. Okay, now it's successful. Now let us verify the count. Okay, now we have 27 rows. Let us do a couple of other SQL operations as well. We can try to retrieve the email addresses of all the employees whose email ID consists of the geo UK. I'm just copy pasting the SQL here. So we have 3 employees who have their employee email ID with the geo as UK. And let us go ahead and query the Snowflake table. We will this time we will use some date functions. We want to retrieve all the employees whose start date is earlier than 1st of January 2017, and for each of their start dates we want to add 90 days. So we got our results here, and now that we have transmitted all the files into the Snowflake staging area, we have loaded those files into the actual table. We did some manual inserts in the table. We queried the table, and now it's time to do some cleanup. Let us go ahead and drop the employee basic table. Okay, now the table has been dropped successfully. So far, we covered how to load data into Snowflake using SnowSQL. There are scenarios where you want to unload data from a table in Snowflake. For example, if you have to send a file extract to your vendor, you need to unload data from a Snowflake table. Or if you have to feed data into your downstream systems, you may want to extract a file from the table in Snowflake. And the most common scenario, if you have to do some exploratory analysis, you need a data set which you can import in R or Python or SAS to do some exploratory analysis. Snowflake offers a flexible method to unload data from a table into a file. Snowflake offers multiple export formats. You can export it into a CSV file, or you can export it into a JSON, or you can export it into a Parquet file format. Snowflake is pretty flexible with the export formats, and it is also flexible on where you export the files to. You can export the files to your Amazon S3 buckets, or you can export the files into the Microsoft Azure Blob Storage, or you can use the internal stage that Snowflake provides. Unloading data from Snowflake is a 2-step process. The first step, you have to unload from the actual table into a file, and then you stage it in the staging area. And the second step is to download the file from the staging area into the actual system. In this case, we are going to use SnowSQL client to log into Snowflake and then to unload the table into a file, and then we will download that file to our local system using SnowSQL. But before we dive deep into the project, let us go ahead and see what is the difference between the staging areas. In Snowflake, we have three kinds of staging areas. We have the user stage, we have the table stage, and we have the named stage. As the name implies, user stage is private to that user. So any files loaded or unloaded into the staging area, the user staging area, is only visible to that user, and he will be able to load that data into the tables that he has access to. Next, we have the table stage. Each table in Snowflake comes with the default staging area where you can load files and then you can copy data into those tables. The limitation is you cannot load the files present in the table stage to another table. And then we have the named stage. Named stages offer the most flexibility, and we can share this stage across multiple users, and we can use the files present in the name stage to multiple tables. The common thing between all these three kinds of stages is that they come with unlimited storage, and there is no limit on the number of files you can store in the staging area. Okay, let's dive deep into the unload. I'm going to my run prompt. I'm opening up the command prompt. I'm opening up SnowSQL. In my case, I have already created a connection called training. So we're going to use that connection parameters, and then we are going to log in into Snowflake. Now we are logged in. The first step is to set the context. We want to use the right warehouse, right database name and schema. So when you scroll down this video, you will see all the code snippets used in this video. So you can just click on the code snippet to copy it into your clipboard, and then you can simply paste it in the command prompt. So I am setting up my DB context now. So once that is done, for the purpose of this tutorial, we want to create a temporary table with, say, for example, 1000 rows, and then we will try to download this data from this temporary table. So I'm creating a temporary sales table. I'm just copying it, and I'm pasting it in my SnowSQL client. So this is going to create a new table, sales table, in the sales data schema with 1000 rows. Let us give it a couple of seconds. So my warehouse is idle now, so it has to spin up, and then it has to execute this SQL query, and then it has to create a table. Okay, now my table is created. And the first step is to create a named stage. So I'm going to create a named stage. In my case, my staging area is called my unload stage. I'm just copying this SQL command, and then I am executing the create stage command. Okay, now my stage is created. I can always use the list command to see all the files present in my staging area. Okay, if you notice here, my staging area right now has no files because we just created it. Now we are going into the actual unload. So I'm going to use the copy into command, copy into my staging area from the table, the sales table, and I want the file format as CSV, and I want to enclose the field names by a double quote. So I'm just copying this and back to my command prompt. I'm executing the command. So this will unload the table, and it will create a file, and then it will place that file in my staging area. So this is an Snowflake internal staging area, which we covered before as the named stage. So now let us go ahead and check if my staging area has this file. We can use the list command to see the list of files present in the staging area. So if you notice here, my staging area has the file. When you unload a file in Snowflake, by default the file is compressed and encrypted. So when you transmit the file from Snowflake to your local system or to your end client, it is in encrypted and compressed format. Okay, now that step 1 is complete. We have logged into Snowflake, we created a named stage, and we unloaded the table into the named stage. Now we have a file in our staging area. So we are now in step 2. In step 2, we are going to actually download that file into our local system. So to download the file from the staging area into your local system, we will be using the get command. So if you notice here, I'm trying to get all the files present in my staging area into a folder on my desktop. I'm just copying the command, going back to my command prompt. Okay. Okay, now the file has been downloaded to my local system. Let me go back and check that. Okay, if you notice here, we are in the unload folder in my desktop. So we have a zipped folder, gunzipped folder. Let me extract it. Okay, if you notice here, we have a CSV file. And then we have the data from the table here. So if you notice, we have 1000 rows in this spreadsheet. So that brings us to the end of this episode. We have successfully logged into Snowflake, and then we have unloaded data from a table, and then we have downloaded that file into our local system.